thank you for inviting me. I'm very interested in this subject, and I think it's interesting for us in the Nordic countries, which, for those of you who wouldn't be that strong in geography, includes Iceland, Finland, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. And I myself are from Denmark, living in and working in Oslo, where this Nordic Innovation is based. Nordic Innovation is an institution under the Nordic Council of Ministers. And I think what Paul was telling about is very much to the core of what we do as well with the Nordic Build and with the Nordic Innovation programs in general. So I'm really keen on having this discussion with all of you and have inspiration to bring back. Whoops, that was just the first page. Okay, just to give you an introduction to the basics of the program Nordic Build. Like James said, it's a program that was launched by the Nordic Ministers for Trade and Industry back when the financial crisis started, as you all will know, because of two core challenges for the Nordic countries, but also core challenges for most of the world, having green growth and job creation on the one hand, and the necessity to reduce our energy use in the Nordic countries. So they put in a lot of million Norwegian kroners and said, do something with them that relates to climate-friendly build. And then we started defining the program, and I'll come back to that, because that's actually where the collaboration came in most strongly. The aim of the project is to accelerate development of sustainable building concepts, and it is, as I said, administered by us in Nordic Innovation. The vision of the Nordic governments is crucial in this sense, because it's to brand and to make the Nordic region a leading innovative region globally within green growth and welfare. And the Nordic Council of Ministers decided to have a number of lighthouse programs, of which Nordic Build is one. And the contribution from Nordic Build program is to accelerate the competitive concepts within the build sector, but to have job creation and energy-friendly and climate-friendly build as one component of fulfilling that overall vision. And the reason why was that we ourselves, maybe you disagree on that and we can discuss it, but in the Nordic region we really believe that we have the knowledge, the competences and the ambitions to actually be a leading region when it comes to sustainable build. But the interesting thing was that, where did that go? Nothing but women and technique, okay? Like you will all know, that the core challenge of when we discuss energy reduction is that 40% of the energy use that we have comes from existing buildings. And looking at the Nordic build sector, it was a low-hanging fruit actually to become a leading region in the world. There is a very strong commitment within all the Nordic countries at ministerial level. The Nordic build industry does actually have world-class expertise. We have in the Nordic countries core values that we share across the countries. It's reflected as well in the way we build, in the way that building processes are designed. But paradoxically, the Nordic countries is not a leading region worldwide. And some of the key issues mentioned when we discussed it with the build sector was that, first of all, people were not very interested in, and they didn't have the experience in working cross borders and across the value chain. So these two elements were two of the key issues that we actually wanted to address. And second, one of the key reasons for not building green or building sustainably is finance. It's the cost issue. So the potential for improvement was quite obvious, and we decided to design a program that could both target the existing building stock through having more collaboration within the build sector, but also between the business and the political level, but also across the Nordic region. There you go. No. It doesn't really wake up, does it? Okay. Just to touch a bit upon about, I won't get into all the details on the program, don't worry, but the key elements of the program are 3 modules. And it's not something that we have designed within Nordic Innovation. Actually, what we did when we had this pot of money, we went out discussing with the industry what's actually the right way to approach this challenge. And we hooked up with the green building councils within the Nordic countries, and 3 of them had the door was open to the whole build sector that is already interested in doing things the green way. And that was a really, really big help for us in order to design a program that was relevant and necessary for the build sector. So, so after that, we invited a lot of business people together last year in February, and about 65 leaders from the build sector came together for 2 days and discussing what is the Nordic identity. What's the Nordic identity in general terms, but also what's the Nordic identity when it comes to building green and building sustainable. And they came out with this DNA of the Nordic build sector, which we call the Nordic Build Charter. And that is basically the platform that we use for everything that we do. It's 10 core principles that covers all 3 aspects of sustainability: the economy, the social issues, and the environmental issues. But the interesting thing is that this is drawn out by the industry itself. It's not something that has been imposed by the political systems and telling the industry, this is what you should do, this is the principles that you should build and renovate based on that. Industry did it themselves, and they then went back to the political system saying, this is what we call on you to support. We have the knowledge, we have the will, and we have a lot of power to do it, but we need you as political systems, as governments, also to support this through funding schemes and things like that, and politically, of course, in the procurement schemes from the public sector. So the DNA of Nordic Build is actually the platform, the identity, the Nordic Build Charter, which are 10 core principles. I can come back to them at a later point in time. But the first principle I just want to mention is made for people. So when you build, it should be made for people. And that means that everyone can relate to it. Politicians, business, and citizens. And that is one of the crucial issues, I think, in the success story of Nordic Build. That is not something for a small group of people who are already involved in these discussions. As Paul said, one thing is to discuss things, but you need to have showcases. It's important to have something to show what does this mean in real terms, what does it mean in reality. So we designed a huge challenge within all the 5 Nordic countries, a competition on actual renovation projects, inviting the business sector to come out with proposals for how to renovate these 5 typical buildings in the Nordic region based on the Nordic Build Charter. And the purpose was, first of all, of course, to challenge the industry in actually doing things, but also to hopefully have 5 buildings that can be showcases for what does it mean when we actually renovate based on Nordic Build Charter. And thirdly, if industry was able to come up with innovative solutions for renovating these kind of building types, that would be like a huge possibility, because like Paul spoke about, there are millions of homes in the Nordic countries. Millions of homes were built in the 60s, 70s, and they all need renovation. A lot of office buildings need renovation. A lot of public buildings, institutions, schools, so on and so forth, need, actually, like Skanska was talking about, hospitals, need renovation because they're built during the same time and they suffer from the same problems. So doing a renovation in the green and sustainable way from the beginning is actually the core of this challenge, showing that it works in practice. We're right in the middle of that challenge, so I can't tell you about the results yet, but there's been a huge interest around it. That's what I can say so far. And then the third module of the program is a very classic one when it comes to government support to any kind of sector. It's a funding scheme, but the purpose was to push for the necessary change bring out not just the usual but the unusual suspects, having funding for ideas, business models, concepts that are very close to the market but needs the last push to actually be shown in practice. The core of that funding scheme is, of course, because we are the Nordic Council of Ministers, that it should be based on Nordic cooperation and multidisciplinary teams as well. That's just a minor thing. But these are the three elements. Maybe, I don't know if you see the charter, this is the one. But as I said, the core message, I think, from Nordic Build having this charter is it's a very strong message. It's simple, it's broad, it's holistic, it's made by the build sector itself, it's addressing what we all experience in our daily lives. Climate change, we need our houses, our offices, our workplaces to be renovated. We know that things have to be done in the sustainable way if we should actually survive as world citizens. And this charter is all about that. And it's appealing to the whole build sector, also the more conservative parts of it, because I don't know where you come from, but at least in the Nordic countries, some huge part of the build sector is quite conservative and is not so willing to actually change their practices. And I think the business case for green build, that report launched by the World Green Building Councils, is going to be crucial also as, again, stating that this is actually possible and maybe the most clever way of addressing issues as an industry. This I've already said, that we hope to, the buildings are not interesting in themselves for you, but there are public housing in Denmark and Sweden. There are, the Swedes launched back in the 70s, 80s, what they called a million program. 1 million program, which was housing for 1 million families in Sweden. And there is a huge potential because they're very boring, they're very run down, and there are lots of social problems within these areas where quite a lot of Swedes still live. And if the industry is actually able to find the way to renovate that in a way that is energy efficient, climate friendly, but also solve some of the social problems, getting people to live together in a community, lots of the potential of the charter would actually be shown in practice. That was a change. I'm not going into that. Just to wrap up, what I think is the core learnings so far with the Nordic Build program is that the dynamic relation between the political systems in the Nordic countries and the Nordic political system in itself, on the one hand, and industry on the other, has been very strong. That can be very weak as well. And I think the reasons for this program to be a success is basically that we had a strategy for what we wanted to do, where we wanted to do it, and how we wanted to do it. The Nordic Build is not about words, it's about the practical challenges that business is facing and politicians are facing, and it's actually talking about the stuff that people care about, whether they're politicians, business people, or citizens within the Nordic countries. And then the strong identity. That 10 principles is a very strong branding identity. It's a very strong communication tool as an industry to say this is what we do, that's how we do it. And it's also something that does sell outside the Nordic region, which is, as I said from the very beginning, also part of this, the aim of this program, actually to brand the Nordic region across the globe. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, and you can see our logo in the very end.